What's up, people? How are you all doing today? My name is Jordan McCracken Foster, and I'm a teaching artist here at Art Prof, and I'm here today with Prof Lieu, and today we are going to be drawing some legs. So if you want to learn how to turn your artistic weakness into your strength, definitely check out artprof.org, where we have lots of free resources, tutorials, critiques, art dares, and all that cool stuff. So let's get into it. I'm so excited.
Guys, this is Jordan's specialty. This is his thing. We were born to do these leg drawings, Jordan.
Yes. I love doing stuff like this. I've drawn so many legs and for figure drawing and just for my characters and stuff like that. It's just become a little habit of mine that I thoroughly enjoy.
Would you say anatomy is one of your comfort zones, Jordan?
Yes, I actually think that's probably my strongest area, which is so bizarre in some ways because the human figure is probably the most difficult thing to draw in general. So, because it's always changing, but I find more comfort in that than anything else.
Well, how did you study anatomy, Jordan? I'm always curious to know where people get their knowledge, if it was from books or school, or what got you to learn and study it?
It was a combination of things. So it started off with taking figure drawing courses in high school. That was where I first got into it, and then I got it from school, going to art college, and I also started learning from a couple of books. One of them I'll show you guys now, actually. It's this book called Atlas of Human Anatomy for the Artist by Stephen Rogers Peck. And what I love about this book, it's very old school. It's from like the 50s or something, and there's some very I'll call it archaic terms in there for certain races of people.
A little out of date.
Yeah, it's a little out of date there, but it has like these really great medical drawings to figure out how certain things are. And so since we're doing legs, I'll show you guys an example of that real quickly. So when I was doing my practicing or challenges drawing legs, I would stare at this page and this page and I would just look at photos at the same time and try and figure out what muscles were what as I was drawing. And I started to basically memorize human figure. And there were times where I would draw like 90 legs in a day or something. And so, like when I was doing the 2500, I would wake up, and from like 11 to like midnight, I would just be drawing, and I would get like 90 of them done. And that's how I learned it, just by repetition. So, yeah.
Don't you all feel so lazy now compared to Jordan?
Well, that wasn't the goal. But get to work, guys. That's all I can say.
Exactly. Quit putzing around, everybody.
Yeah,
get to work.
Yeah, and I will say this too. I'm not necessarily saying that drawing 90 legs a day is healthy. That's not the thing I'm saying. I'm just saying that's what I did. But I got very good very quickly doing that. And they would be quick, 5-6 minute drawings, kind of like this. So I wasn't doing all the tone and everything.
Also, you were really determined, Jordan.
You think so?
Yes. Oh my gosh, you were doing this in like high school.
Yes, I was doing it in high school. But I'm not the only one, actually. I mentor someone who's a family friend. She's 16 years old, and she just did the 2500 challenge in a year. And she did the exact same thing. So it's not impossible, guys. She is what we like to call a teen titan.
All right, now you got to explain, what is the 2500? Because I'm not sure everybody here knows.
Okay, so for those who do not know, the 2500 is an anatomy drawing challenge. It was started up by a group called the Drawhawks Anonymous, which I'm a part of. And the challenge is to draw 1,000 heads, 500 arms, 500 legs, 250 hands, and 250 feet in the course of one calendar year. Each drawing is only meant to be like 5 or 10 minutes long, and the goal is just to get practice. Use regular graphite and like copy paper or a sketchbook. No charcoal, no paintings, no. out there materials, I'll say. They're just meant to be quick sketches. That's all it is. They're studies.
Isn't that convenient, Jordan, that there's no charcoal involved?
Well, you know what? Ironically, the person who made the challenge hates charcoal too. And I was like, finally, somebody understands. So
although,
yeah.
Jordan, there are a lot of people here who are making suggestions for the 100K subscriber celebration that is on the horizon. And we've had more than one person say that they want to see you draw with charcoal. this is what I don't understand. I feel like I've been nice to all of our viewers and subscribers this whole time. And I try and entertain and teach some good drawing lessons, and then suddenly someone comes out wanting to torture me on camera, and I don't know how cool I am with that. So, so I don't know what's up with that, guys. I just want to see the face, Jordan. I just want to see the face.
The face. Maybe I'll draw the face for you. It'll just be like smelling rotten eggs, maybe.
Yeah, Neil actually said to me, who's live in the chat right now, there's a comment Neil left. He was like, I want Professor Lieu to sing. I'm like, I'm going to sing when we hit 1 billion subscribers, which is never.
And that's a good promise. That's like one of those things you tell kids, like, I'll do this when such and such happens. And you being all intelligent and stuff, you're like, that's not going to happen.
Well, Jordan, okay, this is how bad it is. So my husband has this like whole bedtime routine with my kids, which I honestly didn't think it was going to last this long, because I thought, oh, okay, when they're little kids, yeah, I can get it. But it's like my older one's 13 and she still wants this. So he sings them songs every night. It's the same 4 songs, never changes it. They get very upset if he tries to sing a different set of songs.
Wait, is it like a nursery rhyme? What kind of song is it? I'm curious.
Well, the first one is Home on the Range. And the second one is about a green worm. I can't remember. But anyway, so he sings them these songs, and he's home most of the time. But there was one time where he was away on a ski trip, and I was putting them to bed. And I was like, oh, do you guys want me to sing you songs? I'm like, no. Like, they really did not want me to sing them songs.
Oh, wow. At least they were honest about that. They're like, nope, don't even try it, Mom. Don't even try it.
Nope. You cannot substitute this at all. Wait, Jordan, hang on. Neil says, correction, it's wet charcoal, not... Okay, so if you draw with charcoal, it has to be wet, Jordan. Oh, dear.
Neil, I thought we were cool. What's up with this, man? What's up? We got problems or something, man. I don't understand this. I feel harassed.
You poor thing. Oh, Jordan, can you say again what's the name of the book? Bean is asking, what's the name? I'm trying to be a good student and take notes. I'll type the name into the chat. What is it called again?
It is called Atlas of Human Anatomy for the Artist by Stephen Rogers Peck. This one is, like I said, particularly old book. You can probably find a PDF online. It's from like the 50s or something. But it's got a lot of great resources. Goes through all the bones, all the muscles. It talks about the differences between like age group, like how you would draw the skull of a baby or something like that. Like what's the size? So it's really, really helpful.
Well, Jordan, I'm wondering, because that book, I've never used that book before, but the charts that you're showing, they're pretty simple. What do you think about those really fancy anatomy books they're putting out now that have like full color and it's all these buff athletes? I don't like those books. They're too fancy.
I feel like everyone's different. I think for me, this book helped because it was simple enough for me to get, and I wasn't getting distracted by everything. Because, like, here's the thing: I'm not trying to become a medical illustrator or anything like that, where I have to know all the veins and, I just want to know the muscles so I can draw superheroes and stuff. So, so that's really, I think, the key. Like, what is it that helps you to understand. And there's plenty of books out there. That just happens to be one of my favorites that I turn to often.
Yeah, I guess I'm asking because I think sometimes, this is my opinion, and people can definitely disagree with me, but I think sometimes people make studying anatomy for artists way too complicated.
Oh, yeah. Way too complicated. And I personally think you can get a lot more by doing a bunch of drawings as opposed to just one super finished one. Because I took a class one time, and this is my personal opinion. I took a class, and the goal was to be able to draw the anatomy from your head if you wanted to by the end of the course. But we only focus on like one or two major drawings of that particular thing. And 6 months later, I didn't remember any of those muscles or anything like that. And I really didn't start conquering different parts of anatomy until I did it a bunch of times. So that's part of where me drawing 90 legs in a day would come from. Because I can a lot of times just see it in my head and be able to draw it now.
So for you, the repetition and quantity was more helpful?
Mm-hmm. I find it way more helpful because, like, for me, is all the rendering that I would do on like one giant drawing for learning it made me I felt like I was so focused on making the drawing look pretty that I wasn't recognizing how, like, what would happen if I bent the knee? What would happen if I'm looking at it from a different angle? What if it's foreshortened? How would I be able to tell? And I just don't have a strong enough memory to be able to do that without doing it a bunch of times. So again, that's what helped me. I'm not saying that's the right way, but it helped me a lot.
Amanda says, "Oh my, all the man legs on the Flickr reference photo collection." Well, okay, so those photos, I just uploaded them yesterday of legs. Those were not shot as reference photos for drawing. I actually shot those for our figure sculpture tutorial, which is why it's the exact same pose, but all done from different views. So they're not the best leg reference photos, in my opinion, because there's not a lot of variety, but I'm like, okay, it's better than nothing, right? And they're high resolution and you can see the anatomy well and the lighting is good. So I'm like, okay, that's good enough for now until COVID's over and I can actually hire models again. Oh, that foot is way too long. Sheesh. Oh, what a mess. Oh, this is interesting, Jordan. I think you'll like this. Trent says there was a study once where some students had a semester to create one perfect product. Some other students had to create 50 products. The students that created 50 got better results.
Interesting. I would love to read more about that particular study because, here's another, actually, there's a great comment. Octavio Silva says, repetition builds your visual library. And I totally agree with that. After doing a challenge like this, doing 2500, like it changed the way I saw things. And there were times where I didn't have a good reference and I would still be able to create a solid drawing because I knew it well enough. Because I looked at it so many times. And I'm not saying I can't improve or get better or learn more about it, but I'm very happy with the stage I'm currently at. I will say that.
Well, also, Jordan, you love this stuff. I mean, the enthusiasm definitely goes a long way because I've seen people who are like, oh, I should learn anatomy, but I hate it. I'm like, then don't learn it. You know?
Yeah.
You don't have to. It's okay.
Yeah. You know what I think? If anyone on the stream is feeling that way for whatever reason, one good thing for me that always helped was remembering why you're learning it. Like for me, I was like, I want to do character design. I want to draw characters and make up, all these awesome people to see on screen or in a comic or whatever the case is. And that got me excited. And I can't suddenly put Spider-Man's pectoral muscle in the wrong place, but it's not going to feel like Spider-Man, So got to get it right.
Well, I can't draw Hugh Jackman's pectoralis major if I don't know how it connects to the scapula. Oh, it doesn't. Connects to the clavicle.
You are correct. You can't do it. Gotta learn.
Okay. Jordan, you gotta indulge me for a second. So, all right, I follow Hugh Jackman on Instagram. Of course I do. And I woke up this morning to a picture of him getting his vaccine shot. And he's wearing a mask and he's got his arm up, actually, so he can get the shot and everything. He has this like huge muscle and it's all like pumped in. And I'm like, dude, I don't think that vaccine's going into your body. I think that needle's going to like break the second it like contacts the surface.
He's literally Wolverine.
Oh my God. I mean, for Wolverine, it was probably a small bicep because he's not in Wolverine mode right now. But I was like, dude, I would be a little afraid to give Hugh Jackman a vaccine. Well, I wouldn't be afraid. I'd be psyched because, I'd be next to him.
Would you even be able to focus?
No. I'd be like, I need some time off.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, like, if someone's going to poke something into me, I would hope that they aim properly.
Yes.
Especially because a lot of people are scared of needles.
So, Jordan, we have a question that I think you can answer from HT Pokepack. What's a faster way to improve learning to construct a drawing from basic shapes or simply observational drawing?
Both. I mean, when I'm observing something or looking at a reference, I start with basic shapes first. And I think, if the way I see it is, what's the best way to improve as quickly as possible? If you know one method works as well as another method, why not see if you can combine the two? Then you'll be twice as strong. When I was doing my 2500, I would have the anatomy book that I showed you guys, and I would have a photo in front of me, and then I would draw it. So I was getting 3 different bits of information at the same time by focusing that way.
And it depends on the person. I mean, some people feel overwhelmed having to do multiple things, but I like doing multiple things like you, Jordan, because I guess I get worried I'm going to be too reliant on one way of working, and then my work will start to look monotonous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think there's always room to switch up your methods. And if something doesn't work out, then switch it up. Or it could also be a sign that maybe you need to put more focus in it, or maybe you just need a different approach, just any number of things.
And I don't think there's a correct way to learn things, or people will ask me things like, oh, if I learn it like this, is that bad? And I'm like, the only time it really is bad is if you're like plagiarizing somebody's work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the way, guys, for this particular image, had to play Photoshop a little bit because there were certain unmentionable. And before the stream, I was like, are we going to get flagged for this? And so I had to kind of put some more shadow in certain areas. But if you look at the reference, it's all there. So
it's in the drive, the original photo. So by the way, if you did not know this before, we do have a link to a Google Drive folder that has all the reference photos that Jordan and I are going to be working on. We do have the original photo in there, and I apologize, Robert Mapplethorpe, for destroying your work. It's just so we don't get demonetized.
I'm sure I'll be okay with it.
Also, I would like to give a shout out to 10,000 Crows. Thank you so much for the super chat. And they are saying, congratulations, Art Prof, for almost reaching 100K subs on YouTube. Thank you so much, 10,000 Crows. I mean, we're here almost at 100K because of all of you. I mean, those subs, we didn't pay for them. They're real people. So it's all because of you guys.
Yes, thank you all so much. We love and appreciate your support. You guys are awesome.
And Ron Nuck says, silly question, how does Jordan out that image on the screen? Is that a different layer or something?
Okay, so when I'm in Procreate, they have this feature called a reference layer. So if you go up to the little wrench icon up here, go to Canvas, which is the second little option on here, and then reference, sometimes it's switched off, but if you put it on, then you can either have another view of the canvas. So like here's some of the leg drawings that I did, or you can upload an image from your photo library. So it's relatively new, like maybe the last couple of months that they put that in, but it's super helpful.
And Neil is asking, can you talk about your thought process right now? Like, are you searching for landmarks? You know what I'm actually looking for is I'm looking for overlaps in the form. So I don't know if you guys know, this is another photo from Robert Mapplethorpe. It's of a young child. They're probably like 4 years old or something. But I'm looking at, okay, here is the form of the kneecap, which, as I talked about, some of you may have seen the anatomy stream where I was going over the major bones that are in the leg. So you can watch that later on. But one of the things I talk about is how huge the kneecaps are. So I'm looking at, okay, this is the kneecap on the side. This is a muscle that's behind the kneecap. Now here's the kneecap here, and here's the muscle behind it. So I think a lot about which muscle is in front of another muscle. Do you think about that, Jordan?
All the time. Overlapping shapes and forms can make the difference between an arm that's going to you or away from you. There have been plenty of times where I've had to go like where I look at maybe a fold in the skin, and if I get it wrong, it'll suddenly throw the entire drawing off, and it could just be something as simple as like that, you know. So yeah, I definitely think about overlapping shapes. I think about the overall shape of the object that I'm working on. So like I look at this leg as two basic cylinders, like something kind of like this, and then maybe like a ball for the knee. Another little cylinder kind of tapers, and then the general foot shape. And when I get that in my head, then I can move forward. And I tend to skip that step a little bit because I've done enough where I can do it in my head now, but that's how I started off.
The other thing I'm thinking about too, especially on the toes, Jordan, I'm looking at the foreshortening, because if you look at the kid's foot, because it's a straight on view, the toes are weird. Like they're really, really short. And it's funny that this kids have such, well, actually, I guess they just have no sense of balance. Like, you know what I think is the funniest thing, Jordan? Have you ever watched a gymnastics class with 5-year-olds?
I don't think so, but I bet it's hilarious. You know what?
So funny.
Okay, on that same note, you know what I think is really funny? When a toddler is learning how to walk, but he doesn't know how, or he or she doesn't know how to get it right just yet, and they fall on their butt, or they just kind of like, they go like, pat, 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 fall. You know, like that to me is so funny. Like, not when they hurt themselves, that's a different story, but usually they're fine. But it's like their legs are moving too fast for their brains. It's just hysterical.
They're so uncoordinated. And you know something? My kids had this wonderful phys ed teacher at their old school, and he was so funny. He used to be a Marine, but he's like the nicest guy. But he's very good with the kids. Like he really disciplines them, and he had them doing all these routines and everything. But it's just hilarious because none of them are in sync, you know?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that's hysterical to me. I love that sort of stuff. I might be considered mean for that, but I mean, come on. It's funny.
It's funny. So funny. Oh my God. They cannot. And it's funny because, you know, something they used to do this like parent showcase where they would invite the parents to come and watch the kids do their gymnastics routine. And so every year we go, and it's like every year you're like, wow, they're just like a little bit more coordinated this year, you know?
That's hilarious. I love that.
Soyton Lee says, I just noticed that's the largest chunk of graphite I have ever seen. Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? This would kill you to draw with this, Jordan, huh?
Graphite's different. I can work with graphite. Charcoal is just
really?
Yeah, like charcoal to me, I draw with graphite all the time. It's just in a pencil form, but
right.
But charcoal for me, it's Let me take a deep breath here before Neil starts asking me more questions about it.
Well, so for those of you who are wondering about these supplies, I've never used these before. This is the first time I've ever used them. They were given to us by a very generous donor, and they are Derwent XL graphite blocks, and I guess they're different colors. So this one is olive green. This is dark Prussian. We also have raw umber, burnt umber. This just says very soft. This just says, oh, okay. So these two are graphite, I guess. I don't get how, but this also says graphite. I don't get it. Anyway, that's what they are. HT Pokepack says, what do you guys think about the mainstream art YouTubers like Jazza, Super, Ray Dizzle, Drawing with Waffles? I don't know who any of those people are.
Yeah, I've only heard of Jazza. Jazz is pretty entertaining, I will admit. I think my favorites on YouTube are Ethan Becker. He's really funny. I actually just watched some of his videos today. Ross Draws, love his stuff. And then Modern Day James is really cool too. So those are my favorites. But everyone has a different flavor. I think that's what I fall in love with the most, is like when they have a really cool personality. It's just, they just make it enjoyable. Yeah.
Are those little concept art people, Jordan?
Let's see. Ross Tran is a concept artist. He mostly does paintings of like characters like Moana or Princess Jasmine, like that. Ethan Becker is an animation guy. He's primarily storyboarding and character design. And then Modern Day James is a concept artist.
So I don't know any of those people, but I would say the person on YouTube, the art channel I like the most, is James Gurney. I think he's a living painting legend. And the thing is, like, his videos are so well produced. They're top-notch, pro quality. I think he's one of the best YouTube channels out there. I haven't seen the other ones though.
I haven't watched a lot of James Gurney's stuff, but I have both of his books in my shelf right here, somewhere. It's behind me. And yeah, he's an absolute genius. I love that guy's work.
Well, you know what I really like about his YouTube channel, Jordan, is that he draws from life pretty much all the time. I haven't watched every video on his channel necessarily, but I mean, he's like sitting at a diner painting with gouache. And there aren't a lot of artists I know who have that level of dedication to drawing from life.
Yeah, he's amazing. I think he and his wife do it together, right? I think they're both.
They do, yeah.
That is the cutest thing ever to me. Just like, man, what a life. You just get to travel the world and paint with your spouse forever. Like, oh my goodness, that's the best.
Oh my God, I would murder my husband if I did that.
Okay, well, maybe because I'm not married, I say that. I don't know, but we'll see.
Well, it's not him. It's because I'm very bossy.
Oh, I see.
You know, I don't think that's a good idea.
Fair enough.
Wow, we got a lot of really good recommendations for different channels in the chat. So definitely see what people are typing in there, because we have a lot.
There's more channels I definitely watch. I just can't remember all of them right now.
Oh, there's so many. VV Adams is saying, are those graphite blocks the water-soluble ones? I don't know. Are they? I guess I should find out. Maybe they are. I mean, if they are, I can use them sometime to do that. It doesn't say any... Oh, wait, it does say naturally water-soluble. Okay, cool. Maybe on the next stream I'll use some water. But I don't tend to like water-based media for anatomy. Like, I feel like the dry drawing material is a lot better.
Yeah, I think with anatomy, a lot of my focus is being precise. That's where I get the enjoyment personally, just thinking about all the different layers of muscle and, you know, all that stuff. Yeah.
Emma wants to know, Jordan, are you okay with Conte crayon?
I'm trying to remember what it's like. It's been a long time. I think I was okay with it when I used it.
I could see, I mean, to me, Conte crayon is sort of like charcoal, but it's a little bit harder and it's not quite as powdery.
Yeah. I think Conte was fine because, yeah, you know what? The part of what made me so frustrated with charcoal is it would always smear, and I would spend all this time working on it, and then I'd go back to it, and half the drawing was just gone. You know, even if I put fixative on it. Conte, I never really felt like that. Plus, I feel like I can get a better edge with especially when I was in pencil form, but I always felt much better about that.
Well, I'll tell you, this graphite that I'm using, it's really soft. I mean, it almost feels like charcoal. It feels more like charcoal to me than what I typically think about as being graphite. It's weird. Mm. Oh, okay. Blue Wolf Spirit says it's tinted graphite. Okay, so I guess it's graphite that has a little splash of color. I feel like I'm talking about a margarita. Wow, people really want to know about you and your charcoal relationship because Seven Angelic is saying, how about charcoal pencil?
Okay, I got a story behind that one. First off, no matter what happens, I'm just going to be very clear. I'm putting my pencil down for a second. Clear to everybody. I'm going to be clear to everybody. No matter what happens, I still don't like charcoal at all. I just do not like it. Now, to continue on, there was a time in an anatomy class where we were supposed to just use all charcoal. And I got so frustrated by like the third week, I went to my teacher and I was like, look, ma'am, I don't mind doing all the drawings. That's fine. Matter of fact, I'm cool with it. But this compressed charcoal is starting to piss me off. Like, I don't think I said it that way. I was a lot more polished, but I can be free with you guys, right? I was like, starting to piss me off. We got to find another method. I was like, can I please use a charcoal pencil? And he said, yeah, you can use a charcoal pencil. The only thing is I just expect more detail from you. I was like, done, no question. and I went in there and I actually started blowing people out of the water. Like all of my drawings were suddenly like went from like here to here in like a week because I switched. And I would even shade the same way. I would just use a bunch of cross hatching and stuff. And every single week, people would tell me how strong my drawings were. And I was like, thank you. Like, I don't want to use this anymore. I don't like the compressed charcoal. It doesn't give me good results.
Well, so you know what's funny, Jordan, is as a teacher, sometimes you do feel like, oh, I got to just put my foot down and say, no, use the charcoal. I mean, sometimes I'm like that. But other times, it's like sometimes I felt that if the student was persistent and passionate enough that I would give them a shot. And I think in some ways that's almost like giving them another boost to like prove, right? Because if he had said no, you wouldn't have done that. You probably would have just grunted and been grouchy. But instead, you like stepped up many notches to like prove that you could do something.
Yeah, actually, so I actually had another experience like that in a second class that was for figure drawing, and the teacher wouldn't let me use like graphite or charcoal pencil or anything. It was just so frustrating. And the thing that gets me is that in my industry, in the animation industry, most people I don't think anyone ever uses charcoal. I've never even heard of that. So it's not even a tool.
Not for concept art, yeah.
Yeah, like it's like a tool I would never even use. And so to me, it just doesn't even make sense. That's part of what it is. Like if I'm gonna use it, that's one thing. But if I never touch it, I can go with that.
Well, Abby agrees with you. I'm not a huge charcoal fan either. Totally get it. And Amanda says, I love Vine charcoal, but agree with Jordan about the compressed stuff. Mega yuck.
Mega yuck. I like that. That's great.
Although, Raw Nuck says, I was always afraid of charcoal, but after one of the art prof streams, I tried it, and oh my God, I love it now. I even carry a charcoal stick and a drawing pad. That's awesome. So we have multiple camps of thought here, right?
Yeah. And you know what? If you like charcoal, Good for you. And to be honest, I actually do like the look of charcoal. I just don't like using it. Like, that's my thing. I don't like using it. But there's a book by Nathan Fowkes where he goes through his process of creating charcoal portraits, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful book, and I actually want it. It's just, yeah, the medium, not for me. Not for me.
Well, Jordan Slepneer says in this stream, Jordan is a real, quote, Legolas. If you don't know who Legolas is, he's that cute little blonde elf in Lord of the Rings, played by Orlando Bloom, why is he married to Katy Perry? Please explain this to me, people.
Wait, the little blonde elf in Lord of the Rings? I've only seen the first two. Is he in the first two Lord of the Rings?
He's in all three of them, Jordan. Oh my God.
The little elf?
Not the guy, the archer, elf guy.
Oh, okay. That's right. Okay, when you said the word little, I started thinking of like the dwarf guy. I was like,
no.
Okay, I was like, he's like pretty tall to me. Okay, I get it now. I get you. I didn't really grow up with Lord of the Rings, guys.
Legolas is pretty, but that's sort of it. He's not really very in the movies. I never read the books, but in the movies, he wasn't really that exciting. Oh, and we would have a comment here from Jasmine who says, what about Mark Crilly, Jordan? Did you say you did watch his channel?
I watched Mark Crilly. I watched him a lot when I was younger. I'm still.
Oh, he's been around a while.
Yeah, I watched him when I was in high school. I kind of stopped watching, not because I disliked him. It's just I found artists that I liked more. But he has a lot of great advice, and I think that he has some cool stuff. I also like his personality. He's always just like he's like a modern Bob Ross in a way. He's just so nice all the time and very enthusiastic and is excited about his craft and all that stuff. So yeah, Mark Crilly's a cool guy, and his reels and challenges are crazy too.
I got a question for you. Do you think there's such a thing as like outgrowing an artist?
I think so.
You know what I mean?
I guess it depends what your definition of outgrowing is, because as I get older, I appreciate more artists and I learn about new people, and I feel like it just kind of adds to the to my repertoire, my visual library. But then there are some guys who I've known about for a long time, and I'm still inspired by them. Like like my favorite artist is a guy named LaShawn Thomas, and he's been my favorite artist since I was 17. And part of it is just because of his determination, his gusto. He's got 3 animated shows currently, and I'm like, 3. Yeah, and I'm like, what? And he didn't go to art school or anything. He just worked his way to the top, and he's in his mid-40s, early mid-40s. And I'm like, wow, that's the kind of person I want to aspire to be. You know, so people like that aren't going anywhere on my list.
Well, so tell us in the chat, who is an artist that at one point you like love their stuff, but you do feel that, oh, well, yeah, they're okay now, but I feel that I've sort of outgrown them a little bit. Either maybe your tastes have changed or maybe your focus has changed, because I definitely outgrew the Surrealists, Jordan. I was so into them in high school, and now I kind of don't care. I know that's terrible.
It's weird because it's like I definitely, I don't want to feel embarrassed about an artist that I like. I might go like, yeah, I wouldn't have done it that way, but I still appreciate the things I learned from them. That's how I try to approach it. Because then I think about, well, what happens if someone outgrows the art that I do? How would I feel? So it's like I don't think I've hit that stage where I'm big enough for someone to say that or done enough work, but it's just, it's a thought. It's a little bit of something to think about.
I think I've definitely felt that as a teacher, because I had a lot of students that had me as freshmen, and when you have somebody as a freshman, I mean, you're so impressionable, right? It's like you just got to college, you're probably like 17 or 18, and so I mean, freshmen are hard because on one hand, they're very challenging to teach because it's so much to cover. On the other hand, it is, quote, easier to make an impact because they don't have that like jaded quality that sometimes I would get from upperclassmen. Not all upperclassmen, but just sometimes you get people who are like, I've been there, done that. And they just don't have the enthusiasm that sometimes the first year students come in with. And so I definitely felt like some students, when I talked to them later, they'd have this, I've moved on from you, which is fine. Like, I'm cool.
Wow.
It's fine.
I don't even know what to say. I've only taught like one class for a couple of weeks, if you don't include art prof. So I don't know what that's like just yet.
Well, you know what it is? It's because it's so clearly like freshman drawing. It's not like they had me for a drawing elective. It's like, this is your beginning first drawing class. So people want to feel like they've moved on from that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, ask me the question again in about 5 years, and I'll see if I can come with see how we are with that.
So Jessica is asking, what about non-traditional students, like older freshmen? Yeah, I mean, I had a few older students. I mean, your stereotypical freshman in college, at least in the US. I know it's different in other countries. They're usually about 18, 19, something like that. But I had a couple adult students when I was at the School and Museum of Fine Arts. And honestly, they were phenomenal because they were just so happy to be there. It's like, I mean, some people don't appreciate college the way I think they should and take it for granted. And it's like, a lot of these adult students were like, dude, I never got to do this. I love this. And they were just eating up everything. I mean, it's very inspiring. My biggest thing, Jordan, about teaching, I mean, I'm not saying I don't care about the result, because I do, but I think to me, the biggest bummer in the world is when you have a student who just does not care, totally apathetic, doesn't try. Like, that to me is the biggest bummer in the planet.
Yeah, that I can understand that, because I've done some mentoring and stuff like that, and I've run across that before. And I think what makes it so difficult is that you can't really help those students. You have to. I feel like when it comes to teaching, it should be a reciprocal thing. Like, the student should, the teacher should teach what they know and give the guidance, but the student has to go off and actually apply those skills and do everything they can to get better. And if they start taking it for granted, or they don't take it seriously, then sorry, it's unfortunate.
Well, you can't do that for them. They decide on their own whether they're going to try. Because I say to students, I'm like, listen, I don't care how crappy your drawing looks. Just try. Just show me that you're trying. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that's the biggest concern. Because that's authenticity, I think, is super important when it comes to art in general. And if you can't even be authentic about just trying hard, then that you're climbing an uphill. You're facing an uphill battle, basically.
And honestly, a lot of that does not have anything to do with skill. Like, I'd have people who'd come in, and I literally had students, I can't draw. They're like, I have no experience. Everybody here is so much better than me. But you know what? I really want to try hard. And some of those students were some of the best students, because they just were like totally willing to eat their ego and just do whatever. And I love that about them.
I have a friend I've mentioned on Art Prof many times. And for the sake of saving his identity, I won't reveal his name, but he was very beginner level, low level artist when I met him. But he literally willed his way to greatness. Like, he worked harder than anyone I've ever seen in my life, to the point where you would never see him without a pencil in his hand, or not talking about drawing, and he started so much further behind certain people. But by the time he graduated, he walked into certain jobs. He had offers from games and animation companies.
You know what's really funny, Jordan? I feel like you just described yourself in some ways.
I promise it wasn't me.
But like, okay, so this is totally a compliment, Jordan. Okay, it's a compliment. Okay. But when you were in my class and you were like 18 or something,
I was
like
18.
You were not one of the most experienced kids. Like, we have kids at RISD who like did 3 pre-college programs, and they went to an arts academy, and they had hours, and we had kids who were like that. We also have kids who are in between and kids who have very little experience. And you had art experience, but you weren't one of those like pre-college art academy kids, Yeah. And so you didn't come in with phenomenal skills, but it's like, dude, you worked so freaking hard, and it's like the learning curve was so high for you. And I was like, okay, he doesn't have the skill right now, but he will have it at some point, just through perseverance.
Thank you, Clara. I appreciate that. And I did it while being frustrated with charcoal.
See, charcoal was part of your journey. You can't say it wasn't.
I will never say that. Why do we think I dislike it so much?
Yeah, exactly. We have a comment from Mary Exbella. Does anyone have any advice for a student who loves art, is totally invested in it, but is terribly occupied with academics? How do you find a happy medium?
I would just start with 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Something is always better than nothing. Every time you put pencil to paper or charcoal to paper or whatever, or paintbrush to canvas, you're going to improve. When I was in high school, I went to a very rigorous school. I went to a private school, and they were super heavy into college prep, and I was taking SAT courses and all that stuff. And I had a job. Every week, and I still had to find a way to draw. And so I would kind of doodle in math class a little bit. I would take extra art classes. I would draw on the weekends. I'd draw while eating dinner. Like, I just found any time I could to figure it out. And, and it paid off. It really, really did. So I would start small. You don't have to put in 30 hours a week on your, if you're trying to figure this out.
I would start small, but I would also say that you sort of have to pick and choose. I don't know how old you are, Mary, but maybe let's just say you're in high school. Okay. So if you're in high school and you're taking all these classes, you don't need to get an A in every class. It's like, don't fail. And a lot of people want to do well enough that it's not going to destroy their chances at their future or stuff like that. But it's like this idea that a lot of high school students have, that they have to be amazing A+ at everything. It's totally unrealistic. Like, sometimes you just have to say, okay, this science class, it's fine. I'll do enough work, but I'm not going to kill myself for it. So it's like, you got to pick your battles.
Oh yeah. I remember I don't know how I even got here, but I ended up taking calculus, and I hate math. First of all, I hate math.
Why did you do this to yourself?
Well, here's the thing. I thought I had to take it. No one told me I only needed 2 years of math in high school. And I didn't know until I got to that point. And full transparency, I would get D's and C's on all my calculus tests. I had tutors come to the house. I would go to math. It just was not clicking. And at a certain point, I just went up to my dean and I said, yeah, I'm done. Put me in another art class. I'm done. I'm not even, I knew I was going to apply to all art schools anyway. I was like, this is stupid. Like, for me, this is stupid. So instead of trashing my own ego by constantly doing this, I just would rather draw. So that's what I did.
That said, though, you should do enough that, like, okay, so my husband, like, almost failed out of high school. He's so all or nothing that he just, like, stopped going to some classes. And I'm like, dude, just show up, okay? Like, you don't have to do great, but it's not that hard to show up and do the bare basics so you don't fail. But he, like, failed gym, and so he had to, like, make up classes in the summer, and it's like, that's a pain. Like, you don't want to do that. I don't recommend it.
Yeah, definitely don't fail classes on purpose. Show up to class. I hate calculus. I still showed up, but I hated it so much.
Oh yeah, okay, so Mary says, I am in high school. That's what makes it so much more difficult. You know something? You really only need to do one thing really well. later on, like this whole, oh, I got to be a sports star. And I'm also on Ethos for Equality. And I'm also in the Asian American Club. And, it's like, that's great if you have those interests. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but like realistically, at some point, you're going to be spread so thin that you're going to do a bad job on everything. So better to just say, okay, this is the class I'm really going to bust my butt on. This is the class I'm going to do enough. And this class, I'll do barely enough. That's what I did in chemistry.
Oh, yeah. I do not miss those days at all.
I don't. Those of you guys, I feel for you. I mean, all that work, and it's like Jordan and I are just like, yep, let's draw.
Basically. And the thing is,
there is a light.
And for me, like, I knew from the time I was very little that I wanted to do art. So I would guide my decisions based on that. I would take 3 art classes, and then I would, and everybody knew it was not a secret that I wanted to do art. And I was very clear to myself and everyone else, like, this is my goal. Like, I do not want to waste my time learning something that's just not going to be relevant. Like, for example, I've been out of high school for almost 10 years, and I've never used calculus since then. I've never
really.
I've never done what is it? I haven't done long division since that. I haven't analyzed whatever chemistry stuff. It's just certain things I just never do. It's not how my life is.
Real question is, Jordan, when's the last time you used the quadratic equation?
I couldn't even tell it to you. I couldn't even tell you what that is.
Can't either. Although, okay, the devil's advocate side of me has to say, sometimes stuff comes in handy and you just have no idea. Because, like, I was in honors English, and I was fine. I mean, the curriculum 1 class was a little bit too easy for me, which is why I ended up taking honors. But I wasn't one of those, like, whiz kid journalist writing people. Like, I was fine, but I wasn't a star. And I guess I put some effort. I didn't work that hard, but I did enough that I would get, like, a B+ or something like that. But you know what? Writing became very important to me later on. And actually, that's how Art Prof got started, was that initially Art Prof was a written column that I used to write as a blogger for Huffington Post. It's now called HuffPost. And I never thought writing was going to be that important. And now it's very important to me. So it's like, you never know.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely want to learn how to count.
Learn
how to read and write. Definitely those things. But calculus, trigonometry, depends. Maybe if you're an architect or something, or I don't know. Just depends.
Well, those of you who really don't like math and are mad about it, that this is the small piece of comfort that I can give you about math. So yes, it's sort of like, why do I need to learn this? So I had this wonderful math teacher. She's the only person who ever made it fun for me. And she said, something, it's not really about all the equations. Math is about learning how to think mathematically. It's a way of breaking down knowledge and thinking about it in a very particular way. And when she said that, I was like, oh my God, that is really smart. Now I don't feel like this is a total waste of time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just love that about her. We have a question from Jasmine, who says, what do you think about drawing anatomy from an upside down perspective?
Upside down perspective, like if it was like this, something like that, I guess is the question. The way I draw is I need to do it so that it makes sense for me. If it's at a weird angle, then I'll turn the image, and or sometimes, let's say I'm figure drawing and I can't physically move the model, I might turn my page a certain way. And I'll draw it the way that I can see it best. And by the time I turn it right side up, it works. So there's different ways to fight around that. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Clara?
I don't know if I'm understanding the question correctly, Jasmine, but I know some people, if they're doing a portrait, but for some reason in the portrait, the person's upside down, they'll draw the portrait the right side up and then flip it because that's the final result. I don't really like doing that because I feel like I'm not really drawing what I'm really drawing. I feel like I'm not cheating, because it's not really cheating. I just feel like I'm not experiencing that disorientation, because that's the whole thing. If you have a portrait that's upside down, it's very disorienting. And I feel like as an artist, if I feel that disorientation while I'm drawing, that maybe contributes to the piece in a positive way.
Yeah. I will say I have seen people draw or paint something upside down and they flip it and it's phenomenal. And I honestly don't know how people do that. I really don't. I've been trying to figure it out and my mind just does not compute. So if you're one of those people who's able to just blow people's socks off, then have at it. That's freaking awesome.
Jordan, UL says Spider-Man is drawn upside down a lot.
So Spider-Man is shown upside down a lot. It doesn't necessarily mean he's drawn upside down a lot. So I've seen plenty of artists draw him the right way up, and then because of the way the page is supposed to be, they'll just turn it. And then sometimes those, honestly, I think most people who draw Spider-Man are way better at anatomy than I am. So I'm just like, hey, if that works for you, go for it. Like my mind just does not compute yet. Maybe it will one day, but at this stage, still needs some work.
So that's why you guys, we're always telling you, don't just do it one way. Try it a bunch of ways, because not every way is going to work for you. Everybody has a totally different method for learning. And that's why I say to people, listen, don't study painting with one teacher. Study it with 4 teachers. Study it with 5. And you're going to learn something different every time. And actually, Jordan, there was a conversation in the Discord earlier this week. Somebody was saying, oh, I really don't want to take this digital painting class because I'm already very skilled in that area and I feel like it would be a waste of time. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes you can be in a class that's just so remedial that it's like, oh my God, get me out of here. But sometimes you take a class with someone and you're like, wow, they just told me something in a different way. They rephrased it or they had a different approach and I've never seen that before. And now that's enriched my experience.
Yeah, I think that can happen very often because as artists, there are a lot of principles that we all want to uphold for the most part, form, value, line, shape, color, stuff like that. But we all see the world differently. We all learn differently. And there have been plenty of times where I have heard something a slightly different way, even though I already knew it. And when I start teaching, I'll use that as the example to others so that they can understand it. So yeah, I as a student, first off, I think artists are always students, but especially people who are like actually in school or they're trying to learn how to figure all this stuff out. Just be a sponge and get as much as you can from as many people as you can.
And I would also say, try not to make assumptions, because I would get people in my drawing classes at RISD and they'd say, oh, drawing class, I want to be a sculpture major. This doesn't have anything to do with me. And then later on, they would say, oh my gosh, I learned all these things and I just had no idea. And so you just never know. Just don't write it off is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I actually remember one time I took a graphic design course and I thought I wouldn't like it. It was a typography course. Mm-hmm. And I actually got really good at it to the point where I got really good. And to the point where I was able to start doing a lot of my own stuff. And, I don't need to hire a graphic designer for certain things anymore. So yeah, you just never know.
That's amazing. I wouldn't have thought that you would have been into that.
I got the last slot for winter session that year. And I just was all I had left.
There's so many great comments in here. I mean, I wish I could read all of them, but here's one from Emma. What advice would you give for balancing classes in art school? In my first semester, I put so much effort into painting because I was passionate about it, but my other classes suffered. It's a delicate balance, isn't it? And you're constantly tweaking. It's never, all right, I got it figured out. Time management and making sure that never ends. I mean, it doesn't end for me.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Going to art school for undergrad and grad school, I can confidently say that almost never happened to me. I almost never got a complete balance. I just did the best that I could. Usually the imbalance came from me struggling with a particular subject, like painting, and so I would end up spending more time on that, and I would do the stuff I knew I could handle first, and the stuff that was more challenging, I'd spend more time with it. And then when it came to critique in class, if I struggled with it, I would just be honest with the teacher about it. And if it came out ugly, I would just say straight up, like, I know this is ugly. Please don't roast me and tell me how ugly. I already know. Help me. That ended up getting a lot better results, because it's like, at least I knew that I wasn't up to par, but I just sometimes didn't know why.
Also, I will say, Jordan, from the teacher point of view, when a student just fesses up, like, yes, I know, I did not work, you sort of have a little more sympathy than people who just try to BS their way through it, and they're like, yes, I was trying to feel the air of the charcoal, and you're just like, oh, come on, you totally did this at the last minute.
Yeah.
This is a good comment from Soyton who says, if you take a class in something you're proficient in, you can always push yourself to explore new ideas. Exactly. Like, there's no situation, in my opinion, where you can't do something. And yeah, sometimes it's not ideal. Sometimes you're moaning about, oh, I don't like this project, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you have to find a way to make it fun, because not everything you do as an artist is always going to be fun.
Yeah, that's a bad habit. I tend to procrastinate on stuff that isn't fun.
It's just, when I was in art school, there are always students who would blame the assignment. They'd say, oh, I don't like the assignment, and I don't like what we're studying right now. And I was like, well, find something. There's got to be something in there somehow.
Yeah, that's the trick. I think you just have to find whatever is fun for you and just go for it. Because realistically, not everything you face in life is going to be fun, but you still have to deal with it. It's just part of growing up and being mature. And that same thing goes with art. There's going to be times where you have a client or a project, or even if it's your own thing, you face an issue that you weren't anticipating. You got to deal with it somehow.
Actually, I was thinking, one of my kids is really funny, because sometimes if she really doesn't want to do something, it's just a total battle the whole way, just kicking and screaming, right? But the thing is, if she knows that she can get something because she gets something done, she just gets it done. Like, she's really, really efficient about it. Like, she'll do it. Not necessarily a great job, but she will definitely get it done. But she needs the motivation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. Sometimes ice cream can fit in the picture there too.
Or paying your kid to practice their instruments. Not like I know anything about that. All right, full out confession. I'm a bad parent. So here's the thing, Jordan. One of my kids is really musical. Okay, I know I'm her mom, but she had this piano recital a couple years ago, and she's a natural musician. Like, she knows how to phrase. She has a and it's not hard for her. Like I said, it's like, if she just focuses for 3 seconds, she can do it. And so, like, I really don't want her to quit her instrument. And so she's been fighting me like crazy. And I was like, okay, I know you want an allowance. I will pay you to keep playing. Like, because I really, really want her to keep going. I know it's a bad example, but sometimes you're just so desperate as a parent.
I feel like I'm in a place where I can't really say a whole lot, because I'm not a parent and I don't know what that battle is like. But I understand. I sympathize.
Well, you know what it is that really gets me is that there's so many people I know who are like, my parents, I really wish that they had kept me going on violin, and I wish I hadn't quit when I was 11, and now I regret that so much. And so I hear that a lot. And also, those of you who are parents in the chat, you guys know what it's like to be desperate, right? Where you're like, any babysitter, I'll pay you so much money, just come.
To struggle. I might find out one day.
Oh, Jordan, the things you do when you are a very desperate, sleep-deprived parent. You will do almost anything.
Yeah.
So Amanda says, my son is a classical pianist just starting his PhD in music. When he was young, I said I would do his turn at whatever chores if he was practicing. He practiced a lot.
Wow.
That is really good.
That's clever. I like that. I'll have to remember that one day.
Well, so here's another story, which is actually really cool. So my orchestra conductor who played in the Boston Symphony violin, he passed away a couple years ago, but his son at the time when he was a teenager, he really wanted to play drums. He wanted a drum set really, really bad. And he was also playing cello. And so the father said, okay, well, I'll let you have the drum set, but you have to stay with cello and you have to practice all the time. And you know something? Later on, he became a cello major and joined his father in the Boston Symphony.
Oh, that's so cool.
I know. So
sounds like a movie. That's epic.
Blue Wolf says, my legs came out so pathetic. I need to watch the first video again and then retry. I won't say I can't, just not yet. Any tips for that, Jordan? Because as much as it's so fun to draw with us and hang out and everything, you do hit roadblocks with anatomy where you're just like, oh my gosh, what do I do?
Yeah, I think the key for me, whenever I was struggling with something, I could root it down to not understanding what I was drawing. And that's why I keep bringing it up over and over again. And that's why I said that I would have the anatomy book open in front of me as I was drawing, because there were times where I wouldn't recognize a certain muscle. And I'd be like, what the heck is that? Like, what is this bulge here? I don't know what this muscle is, especially if it's, you know, and it could vary. Like there's some legs that you've seen us draw on the stream. Some are very muscular, some are very thin and doesn't have a lot of muscle definition. You got to figure that out. So that's what I recommend, is just study it a little bit more and also take a little bit of a break, because learning and frustration usually don't go very well together. So
yeah. And I think you guys, what Jordan's saying about like not having the knowledge, that doesn't apply to everything. I think if you're drawing a flower, it really can just come down to, oh, notice this petal. But anatomy, it's like, if you don't know that there is a tensor fascia lata, which, by the way, this is it. If you don't know to look for the tensor fascia lata there, you're dead in the water. You're not going to figure that out on your own, right?
Right. Yeah, you just got to figure it out. And that's why I also recommend drawing something like 500 of them.
It all comes back to 2,500, right?
That's right. Full circle conversation. But it's true. It's true.
Well, you're not alone, Blue Wolf, because Meisuko here says, I struggled so much. I have to practice more. And Emily says, I feel you, Blue Wolf. Mine aren't perfect yet either. Yeah. I mean, this is not uncommon. I mean, I think a lot of people, especially in the Discord, especially in the Artist Wellness channel, I think sometimes people think, oh gosh, I'm the only one. You're not. It's like everybody feels this. This is really common.
Yeah. I actually, to be honest, when I was learning anatomy, legs and hands were the most difficult things for me.
Really?
Legs were a little challenging because I didn't understand how all the muscles worked. And there's just a lot of variety, and also finding references was challenging for me because I just didn't know where to find them. So yeah, I get it.
Well, Jordan, I can't wait till COVID is settled down, because then I can finally hire some models and do like really nice references for you guys. I just haven't because of the pandemic situation, but eventually that is definitely high on my to-do list.
That'd be awesome. I miss figure drawing so much.
Oh, I love it. When's the last time you drew from a live model? I can't remember.
Probably a little more than a year. Like maybe 13 months, something like that.
Oh, geez. I think for me, it's at least a few years.
Yeah, figure drawing to me is relaxing. So,
I mean, I'm not counting time in the classroom because when I was teaching, I never like drew. Like I would demo for people, but that's not the same thing as like sitting and drawing on your own.
Oh, I see.
So I've been around models and I've been in classes, but like as far as me actually doing the drawing, not so much.
Yeah.
We have a question from Fab Geek who says, how long did it take you to become an anatomy expert? What's your estimate for you, Jordan?
First off, I guess we got to define the word expert because I
guess
myself an expert. But in terms of how long it took, well, I'll say this. I've been drawing the human figure for about 11 years now. I started doing figure drawing when I was 15. I'm 26 now. And so, yeah, it's taken me a long time, but it's worth it because I'm pretty quick now and I can figure this stuff out and I find it fun. That's relaxing for me. So.
You guys, I was asking Jordan for this. I was like, okay, so how many photos do we need? He's like, I'm pretty fast. I'm like, oh my gosh, how many? So I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get enough photos for Jordan or he's going to run out.
Well, was I wrong though? Because like, look how many.
No, you were not wrong.
I've done quite a few. But yeah, this is exactly what I would do when I was drawing them. I don't know how many there are on this page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just say 10. I would do this like for 12 hours.
Oh,
just except it was on paper and not on my iPad.
I believe you. For me, Fab Geek, so I did some figure drawing in high school, but I wasn't thinking about anatomy much. I was doing more gesture stuff. I don't really think I started truly learning anatomy until I got to art school. So probably when I was like 19. And then I did a lot of figure painting. But I think where I cemented my anatomy knowledge was in graduate school, because the graduate school I went to was like all figure. And while the graduate school was frustrating for some reasons, Jordan, we had an obscene amount of time with live models. It was insane. It was like 8 hours a day, almost 5 days a week, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
So that, yeah. Blue Wolf says, at least I know it's because my mind can't see it properly yet, so more practice won't help. I didn't get to see the first video. Watching Professor Lieu and Jordan doing it properly is better today. It's time and repetition. It's such boring advice to give all of you, but nothing substitutes that discipline. And it bothers me that people don't often associate discipline with artists. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, it upsets me very much. There's a quote, I don't know who said it, but the phrase is, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And basically, you know, especially with artists, you know, I've never heard someone talk about a musician and say, you're just so naturally talented. It's, you know, every musician will be like, yeah, I practice whatever instrument for like 25 hours a day. you know,
right.
They say stuff like that, and it's insane. They're like, I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I practice it. And with art, you know, there's the idea of like, oh, you're naturally gifted. It's like, maybe a little, but all the hours I put in have far outweighed the talent that I was born with, if I had any. And I also don't like it because I feel like it discourages people who want to do art but don't feel that they have that natural gift. And I think it's actually just messing people up.
And also, I went to art school with some people who were really talented, but who were lazy. And a lot of them aren't doing much because they're lazy, right?
Right, exactly. It's exactly the case. Yeah.
Kiyomi says, he who never made mistakes never made anything. Mistakes are your best mentor. Well said. The other thing I would say about mistakes, everybody here, keep making mistakes. Keep it. Don't tell yourself you're done making mistakes. I think what I heard at an artist lecture once with Sarah Z, who's a very internationally renowned artist today, she said at her lecture, just make new mistakes. That's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another way I've heard it is fail faster. That's another way I've heard it. It's like you just the more you fail sooner, you're gonna recognize those mistakes and you're gonna get better at it over and over.
And Yuel is asking, Jordan, do you do comic art?
Not so much. I appreciate comics, but the ones who are, if you're gonna talk about anyone on the art prof team, I would go to Kat and Alex for sure. They're the comics whizzes over here.
And HT Pokepack is saying, what do you think about nudity in art? I think some people misunderstand it and interpret it sometimes as not safe for work. I mean, it's so unclear. I mean, even in the Discord, as some of you know, our server is family friendly. We don't allow certain types of images in that server because we want everybody to be safe. But it's like sometimes it's really hard to tell because depending on who you are or your culture, for some people, certain things are upsetting and other things are not. It really varies. And so it's all case by case. I think some people are very, very uptight about nudity. Other people don't care. I mean, it depends.
Yeah, that's a tricky one because like there are some people who, if you saw the image in a Discord, it'd be like, oh my gosh, get that out. But then they'd be the same ones who go look at the statue of David and be like, what a magnificent piece of work, you know? So, I don't know.
Ron Nook is asking, how expensive is it to hire a model? Well, it depends on who you are, because I'll tell you, the models I worked with at RISD, they were not paid well. And oftentimes were not treated well. I mean, there's some icky things that I would hear about. I mean, I loved them. They were fabulous. And they would just, tell me all the mean teachers and stuff. I mean, nothing like totally scandalous, but, like some teachers are more grateful than others. And I just think if people are good, they should be told. But anyway, in the US, I would say on average, probably $15 an hour, which is not that much for live modeling. But things change when it's photography. So if a model is working with me and I'm shooting photographs of them, I definitely pay them way more because that's not just modeling in a classroom. It's more permanent because you're taking those photos, you're putting them out there for people to use. That's a very different thing than just posing for a life drawing class. So Mary says, so many people at my school gawk at my nude figure drawings that I shamelessly work on. Some people just do not understand it. I think the human body is so important when working with principals. You will get people who are so conservative. And it's like, it doesn't even matter how it's portrayed. It's just, if it's nude, it's bad, right? And I don't think it's that black and white.
Yeah, I faced that plenty of times too. Just keep practicing and ignore that is my advice. Because it's going to drive you crazy.
Jordan, you got to tell the story about your aunt and the figure drawings.
Oh, so I mentioned earlier in the stream that I was 15 when I started doing figure drawing, and I told my family that I was doing it because it involved me staying after school and blah blah blah. And but for some reason, I don't think they understood what I meant, even though I said working with nude models. I was very clear on that. So I bring my work home, and I was living with my aunt at the time, and she's at the time she's probably in her early 60s, something like that. And I showed her some of my work, and she's like, "Oh, I see. They got you drawing titties at your school, huh?" And I was like, I was so shocked. I was like, "What do I say?" I was like, because she's not wrong, but there's so much more to the figure than just that. So yeah, it was very awkward. And then my mom had a similar reaction. She was like, "Oh my gosh, Jordan, I didn't know that's what you meant." I was like, "Mom, I told you. I said they're naked people. They're new. Like I don't know what you I don't know what you want from me." I was very upfront.
So your mom and aunt, they were surprised, which it's fine. I mean, they were okay with it. But I actually did have a friend who did figure drawings and brought them home in an art class that they were taking. And his father took the drawings and threw them away and said they were disgusting and he never wanted to see it again. So that is something some people have with nudity. It's complicated for a lot of people.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Tangerine says, "I can't believe you had the boldness to tell your family."
Well, here's the thing. Like at the time, I think I had to get a permission slip for one.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was one. And then two, I was getting to and from school by myself. I was taking the bus, and I would have to let them know when I was coming home late and why. And so I was like, "I'm taking an extra art class. This is what it is. Blah blah blah." And I guess they didn't listen. I don't know. I really wish I could go back and analyze like the reason for why they didn't understand what I was telling them, because I was so clear. I didn't lie to them at all. I didn't even try and hide it. I was just like, "Look, I need to do figure drawing because as an artist, it's important." And you know, my teachers say I'm doing really well and all that stuff. And no, it just got, you know, it just came down to me drawing titties at my school. So that's it. That was it.
We would love it for all of you to join Jordan and I in the Art Prop Discord. We will be hanging out in the Art Alongs channel in a few minutes. The Discord invite link is in the YouTube video description below. Subscribe to our channel so you can continue to grow and develop as an artist. And a big thank you to our top Patreon supporters, who we are so grateful to have your support so we can keep our content 100% free and accessible. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.